Hello and welcome to the Inner Voice Show, a psychological show that we talk about everything that is mostly important to your life. I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine, and thank you for being with us today. Today I am really excited about having a wonderful guest, Mr. Luis Moro, who's a professional parent. I remember the first time I asked him, what do you do? And he says, I'm a professional parent. And I was like, okay, what is that? So today you and I are going to ask him, what is a professional parent? So thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me. My pleasure. My pleasure.
So I know that as a background for our audience to know that you have been an award-winning movie producer and a director. You have different types of companies that you give offerings to the world in many, many different ways. However, you choose that when I asked you, what do you do for life and for living? You insisted, then you said, I'm a professional parent. How come?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the show, and it's fantastic. I did my own homework, and you really do reach the world, so that's awesome. Yeah, it started out when I became a full-time single dad. So there I was, married, and I had 5 kids total. My ex had 3 kids that I also raised, and I had 2 with her. And then through life circumstances, I became a single dad, and it really just flipped everything upside down, because here I'm now a full-time father with a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. And I was just about to produce another movie, and my IT business was just building up with my partner, who's a genius in that world. But it turned everything upside down, because when you got, when you have 2 kids full time, as most women know, I don't think all men know, but I know that most women get it. You really do have your life turned upside down.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I've coached a lot of husbands and people in business, and they'll complain to me, well, my wife and I go to work, and she stays home with the kids, and she gets to watch, Foojan on TV or whatever. I'm like, man, when you walk out the door, you're on vacation. I don't care what you do, unless you're like, in the military and getting shot at for 6 months straight without knowing where the bullets are coming from. You can't even say anything of what it's like to be a parent, the primary parent.
I know, I think the mothers are really appreciating hearing that from you, because you're absolutely right. Yeah. They really wish that for one day their husband would just stay with the kids and do everything that is at home without belittling what they do and kind of like maximizing the value of what they do outside.
No, it's not acknowledged it's just not acknowledged. It's one thing to hear mommy, mommy, mommy. It's another thing to hear mommy, 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 mommy. 5 years later, 6 years later, you go crazy. You're crazy. So inside of that, so I'm in this situation with my kids, but I'm also a guy who had 24 years of training and development, coaching, consulting world. I've worked with the best, and I could brag about that world. And I was sitting there one day, I was like, there's no way that I'm going to sit here and have my life go down the tanks because of a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. So, and I think being responsible takes a lot, because we could, we could take it and put it on a background and say, okay, well, my work and career is important, and that's what I got to do, and yet let go of that responsibility and just kind of like give it to somebody else.
Yeah.
Or be responsible and take it on in a whole different way, that's what you did.
Well, there's enough studies. There's a big difference between having someone who helps you raise kids, nanny, daycare, all that's, it's a huge difference than having someone who's actually raising your kids.
Exactly.
Night and day. It could be the same amount of hours, same amount of context, same amount of circumstances, but the context is 100% different. When you're raising your kids, you're responsible to making sure that they're fully functioning and self-determining. And until that's done, you don't stop. So there I am in this situation with the girls, and they're doing their craziness, their magic, and having fun, and I'm saying to myself, okay, basic distinction that you could find in many disciplines, right? What's happening, and what am I saying about it? Like, what's the story? Because they were just having fun. They were jumping around, playing, running all over the house. They're playing this game called Lava Monster, where they make sure that everything on the floor is covered. So everything from pillows to couches to blankets, clothes. You're not supposed to see the floor. You ever been to a Russian dinner table when they have the feast, yeah. And the goal is to cover the table? You're not allowed to see the table?
Or teenagers' rooms with all of the
Yeah, exactly.
Your kids are getting
it's
there.
spoiled out to the rest of the house. So
Yes.
lava monster. And I'm sitting there saying to myself, okay, this is like the first couple of days of being a single dad. I'm like, what am I going to do? I pretty much lost everything inside the separation. I got $20 in my pocket. I'm living in this little cottage in Montecito in Santa Barbara, and my girls they're going nuts. And I wanted to like, ugh. But then I said to them, wait a minute, they're having a blast. They're happy. I'm the one that's not happy.
Yeah, it's my issue, not theirs.
They're just, what is going on? And then one of the distinctions in professional parenting is pretty quick to the point, is whatever hooks you is you. Mm-hmm. So I knew that whatever was bothering me was me. And there's no out, there's no me but, me maybe, me and, no, it's me. So I just started looking, I keep on asking myself these questions. Okay, where do I do that? What am I doing? What are they doing that I've done? Where am I not responsible for what? And then it finally just hit me, it was like a combination lock. Another distinction, combinations of language, where you try to find the word to give you freedom in whatever you're up to, like a combination lock, right? And it's like, oh my God, I'm just like them, persistent, don't give up, going for it, love to play. And I just started cracking up because it was just little versions of me having fun, playing. They don't care what the circumstances were.
Just a different play. Just showing up in a whole different play.
Bingo. And once you connect that, once I was able to connect those dots, I got some freedom and I stopped.
Well, it's awesome because I think one of the things that I hear from what you say is, as parents, we decide, and we think we should, control every environment, although we do it from a protective stance and we do it from a teaching stance, as if I need to control and I need to guide them and let them know where they're going. However, like you said, the story we put on it puts the slant on how am I guiding and how am I teaching and how am I controlling. So the story you were putting on it is like, wow, all the goodness that I was finding in their character that was doing this play, rather than creating other sorts of stories and putting negative adjectives onto it, which would change your mood and shift you into dealing with them in a whole different way.
Yeah, what usually happens, what I find happens is that, you know, we have an intention, a goal, something we need to do.
Right.
I needed to get back to work.
Right.
I needed to, this is, by the way, I'm telling you the tail end of a year of a divorce, literally losing everything. I mean, I was homeless with these two kids for 30 days. It was not a pretty sight.
Right.
But at the end of the day, those are the circumstances. So when you look at that, and then, okay, I have to get back on the court, I need to do this work over here, I need to do all that work, and their noise was interrupting, was conflicting with my noise, let's say, or my things, my thoughts, what my inner thoughts, like you said in the show, what I need to do. So my inner thoughts had one idea, and their inner thoughts had another idea. And the two inner thoughts had a party that didn't work out. So I said to my inner thoughts...
There's a huge dispute there.
A dispute. So I said to my inner thoughts, I'm not going to debate with developing brains. They're 3 years old and 5 years old. I mean, to have an argument with a developing brain, I might as well talk to a wall and probably get a better response. I'm the fool. Really, and I don't want to say any parent is a fool, but I know myself as a parent, I'm the fool if I'm arguing with a 3-year-old, pretty much up to like 10 years old, 8, 9. If you're arguing with your kids, you're pretty much the one that has, how would I say, your capacity to have conversations is limited there. Right. So you just want to expand it. So inside of that, I just stopped. I played Lava Monster with them for a little bit, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. That's all they needed. Once they got my attention like that, I was happy, laughing, they kept on playing, and I was able to focus and get back to what I need to do.
One of the pieces that I, when you told me about being a professional parent, one of the first things that came to me was, you know, what do we do as a profession and as a professional who holds their profession in a high value?
Yes.
We get training. We specifically get training.
Yep.
We do not call ourselves professional unless we have training and we feel and we know that we're an expert in it, right?
Yeah. Most
people don't realize that when it comes to parenting. They figure, hey, learned it from my parents. I know not to do what they said, what they did, which I didn't like. And I'm certainly going to continue the things that they did for me, which I liked. And that's enough training for me.
Yeah.
And in the face of meeting challenges, after the fire is there, we keep going and saying, okay, now what do I do? Which it dawned on me, when you call yourself a professional parent, to me, it's like, okay, I have to be that professional now.
Yeah, well, it gives you a context to live for, to work for.
Exactly.
It's you being a professional. there's a lot of parenting methodologies, by the way, and a lot of
Right.
theories and things like that. So inside of looking at all that and being inclusive, one of the distinctions that I created that evolved is we call it, again, combinations of language.
Right.
Where the more combinations you have of any distinction, whether it's therapy, psychology, coach, consulting, business, you know, if you're in the apple tree business and you want to learn the orange tree business, you're going to learn something if you keep on just expanding. It's a big leap from therapy and psychology to apples and oranges, right?
No, we pretty much deal with the same thing.
And pineapples and
Fruits
coconuts,
of
a lot of
life,
nuts,
yes.
a lot of nuts. I'm just kidding. So the point is that you want to keep on expanding because you know if you really take a simple step back, okay, what is this thing called life? Kids are born, mothers do awesome. They bring life to earth, as my mother would say. Thank you for bringing life to earth, right? But then we have to really there's two worlds going on. There's life, which life doesn't care who you are. True. Life keeps on lifing.
Right.
Life is going to
I like that. Life keeps on lifing.
Whether it's you, whether it's other animals on the planet,
right.
whether it's plants, whether it's amoebas, life is lifing.
Right.
And who and what, where created it, that's a debate for someone else. All I know is it's relentless.
You should put that on a quote.
It doesn't.
And put your name under it. Life keeps lifing. I like that.
Yeah, it just keeps lifing, right? So then we as parents think that we're supposed to do something with that. Well, maybe not. There's two things that I try to have people get from the beginning. My job as a parent is to educate my children, give them distinctions, give them training, give them as much information, as many combinations of language so they can know how to deal with the blows of life. They know how to land on their feet. They know how to react. They know how to be proactive. They could make decisions until they get to what I call fully functioning, self-determining. Once you're fully functioning and self-determining, I got my job done as a professional parent.
Now, let's define. Let's define. Fully functioning, self-determining.
Yes, great.
So let's create the distinction and define that for our audience. So when you say fully functioning, what do you mean by that? Let me say, for example, what we think with fully functioning, many of us think like, well, you got to be 18, you got to become an adult. So how can I make my 3-year-old, 5-year-old, 8-year-old a fully functioning? Now, part of what it comes to me and what I teach my clients has been, and I just want to check that out with you, which is it close to what you're saying, and then add to it from where you're coming from, your distinction. For me, it's almost like we do things for our children because they don't know how to yet. And almost the minute they know how to, and that we've taught them, whether they get taught by their genes just coming to that age and they get it, they have the capability physically and psychologically to get it. And then from outside, we also teach them and role model for them in how to do what they're capable of doing now. And when that is, and we've done that piece to kind of like remove ourselves a bit and allow them to practice with it and really experience what that skill is based on who their character is and who, as a gift, they bring passionately to that skill, however it is. When you said that, that's what came up for me. So,
and
back to you.
she should be raising my children. So, look, yes, everything you said, and the one thing I have people understand that there is no the ultimate way.
Yeah.
There's a series of ways. So,
sure.
Being 18 is a benchmark. Being an adult is a word that I know 13-year-olds that act better than fully functioning
Thank
adults.
you. Yes.
So it's not. So it has nothing to do with age at that point. How we define being a fully functioning, self-determining person. There's a couple of key distinctions. One is we call it the 5 A's.
Okay.
So if you could practice the 5 A's, and as my daughter Kylie would say, she said this at 8 years old when she got it. Been practicing with her when she was younger, but at 8 years old on her own, she says, I could do the 5 A's without throwing a tantrum.
How cool.
And I said to her, what's the 5 A's? Because I never called it the 5 A's. I said, well, I could have any conversation with anyone, anywhere, anytime about anything and stay in the conversation, get value from the conversation, and not throw a tantrum.
Wow.
Now, to be a fully functioning person, you have to be able to do that.
Wow. You got to say that again. He's got to say that again because those A's are amazing. I think if anyone can create that, and I'm impressed with your daughter being able to distinguish and saying that I can't, but to be able to do that, to be non-reactive in any place is an amazing skills and inner centeredness, let's say, to have.
Yeah. And it's and I'm also going to add that it's just an education.
Right.
That if you have the education, see, I could assert that you really can't always catch yourself on a reaction.
Right.
But you can catch yourself right after the reaction.
You got it. Yeah.
And it could happen so fast that nobody even knows there was a reaction.
Right.
So that's just training. That's not. There's no. You could train yourself to be that way. Something can happen. You actually do react.
Right.
But you catch yourself and you laugh so fast in like a nanosecond,
yeah.
and people say, "Whoa, you're so cool about it."
Yeah.
Like, you know, I wanted to knock your head off. You don't realize how cool. I caught my cool.
Right.
So she on her own. Once you recreate the language part, the words part, the 5 A's again. Have any conversation with anyone, anywhere, anytime about anything, and actually stay in the conversation. Then you could actually create something. By the way, and you could also be able to do that in one area of life and not another.
Right.
And somebody says, well, what do you mean by that? Well, you know, some people could actually do that in the area of their job.
Right.
But they can't do it in the area of their relationship. You know, forget about talking about, you know, if you add, you know, sex, religion, and all of the things that people, you know, are just not there yet. Money, nothing like that. But having the language on the distinctions then gives you a context to play in. So what does that mean? Once you could actually start saying it, then you could actually start doing it. Mm-hmm. I'll give you I could give you a real life example with Kylie.
You gotta give me a minute.
Absolutely.
We gotta go to businesses and come back. So as we're in this piece of commercials and coming back, I want you to really look at those 5 A's and see what areas of your life you are able and capable of really pulling through those A's without having a tantrum, and what areas you're still having some issues with. So we'll be right back.
خرد زندگی، مجموعه‌ای از سیدی‌های صوتی که شما رو به اعماق وجود خودتون میبره تا آرامش درون، خواب آسوده، رهایی از احساساتی که شما رو آزار میده و با بدن خودتون متصل میکنه به زبان فارسی و انگلیسی. این مجموعه با صدای دکتر فوژان زینی شما رو هیپنوتیزم میکنه و کلمات تلقینی به کار رفته میشه تا شما رو سریعتر به اهداف خودتون برسونه، با موسیقی که به شما آرامش میده و با تکنیک مانورو بیت. برای سفارش این سیدی های صوتی با دکتر فوژان زینی در تارنمای foojan.com